He was already talking.
Praying.
But you was over there, hey, cut it out. So I just it didn't register.
I hit record already.
I come to you as humbly and graciously as I can. Let's pop.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Grae Area Podcast.
Grae Area.
I am Shakoya D.
Being Breeze.
It's your boy Damani.
And today we have a special guest.
Hi, I'm Kaylah Raye.
I wasn't done.
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
Intro.
Yeah, we gotta give you an intro. Okay, so today, this is our second guest on the pod. And this is like the first, no, not the first, but this is my sister, guys. And his sister.
Too.
Yeah.
We're related.
Yeah, this is Kaylah Raye. Her information will be in the description below, as well as right here somewhere. So y'all will see it. Make sure y'all follow her. But while you following her, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and tell a friend, and tell a friend, and tell a friend.
Yep.
Okay? If this is your first time being here, this podcast is about whatever we feel like talking about. And that could literally be anything. But I'm not going to hold y'all here too long. What are we talking about today?
Perfection. Perfection is subjective. I believe perfection is subjective.
Elaborate.
I agree.
Perfection. The reason I said that is because the reason how we got here, a lot of people think I'm perfect.
I'm going to add a
A lot of people think I'm perfect. Look at me as this just perfection. But with perfection comes a lot of responsibility, or you got to live up to expectations. Yep. That's why you're here. Perfect. And I realized probably a couple weeks ago I used to self-sabotage because people used to say I'm perfect or look at me in this perfect light, and it comes with expectations that I didn't even want to deal with. I didn't want to have to deal with that type of responsibility level of expectation. So, but now, if you think I'm perfect, thank you. It's not going to change nothing. We still moving how we supposed to be moving. But I come to realize, in my mind, in my opinion, perfection is subjective. What I look at as perfect, everybody else don't think. I mean, if they think I'm perfect, and I don't think I'm perfect, my envisionment, that's probably not even a word, but my envisionment of perfection is probably super perfect or hyper perfect compared to everybody else. I just feel like my standard is higher than the average person.
Okay.
So that's why I say perfection is subjective.
You look like you have something to say. Mm-hmm. But hold on, before you get it, because I think this might give you some more ammo to whatever you was about to say. He said he agrees.
I do agree. Yeah. You want me to explain?
Yeah, why you agree?
Yeah, no, I agree. But also to kind of, because we started talking about this a little bit, but I think everybody was made perfectly how they're supposed to be, right? I think, again, perfection is subjective, but in everybody's worldview is different. So like, when the example I was giving was, all right, you can look at a painting and be like, oh, that's the perfect painting. I love everything about it. The person who made it is like, nah, that should have been different. That should have been different. That should have been different. But to the person who's looking at it, it's perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. So I think it's just a matter of who's looking and like what do you use to define what's perfect? Like what's the measurements for what perfect is? But in general, I think everybody was made by like, and just by our design, it's like we're all perfect in our own way. Yeah, in our own way. I don't necessarily think anybody is less or more perfect. It just depends on who's looking.
And your thoughts?
I'm struggling with y'all saying that everybody is perfect because I don't think anybody is perfect. So I don't know if it's just like the polar opposite, but I think that we're all flawed human beings, like however you want to look at that. Like we all have something that we could work on. Like we all have things that we are working on or should be working on, or things that maybe other people see in us that we don't see in ourselves. So I think like God is perfect, and like though we were made in God's image, we are not God. And so like we'll never meet that standard. So like I get the subjective thing that y'all are saying, and like I don't like, I'm not saying like I fully disagree with what y'all are saying. Like I understand that perspective, but like that's just not how I would word it.
But if personal experiences, if people are saying I'm perfect, their envisionment of perfection, their envisionment of perfection is different than yours.
Yeah.
I understand that.
And I was gonna say, in terms of like, all right, God is perfect. I don't think God made anything that wasn't perfect. So it's like by default we would have to be perfect. Now, granted, some things are different, designed differently, but I think like in its essence, like whatever, like every human by itself, there's nothing wrong with a human by like in itself. It's just depending on your worldview. Like I think, all right, in America is one thing can be wrong in one aspect, and then another thing can be right in a totally different aspect, right? So in America we work 9 to 5. You go see that right? That's wrong, right? But that's wrong because you know more now. You see other countries like, bro, you would never work 9 to 5. You never gonna work a 5-day work week. That's stupid. That's
with the family.
But that's all about your worldview. So I think it's the same thing with people. I don't think by design any of us are flawed. I think some of us lean towards more extremes in certain stuff. Like some people do some stuff that's a little bit further on the spectrum, but it only look crazy because it's not perfect to me.
I got a question. To go back to God and the painting. So what if God was making people and he was just like, dang, I messed up on them. I don't like that. But everybody else like, you know what? I like that. I love it. That's perfect. But he was like, nah, I messed up on that. Let me sprinkle this on Cohen's, see what happens.
But I feel like to say that God messed up on anything is an insult.
Nah, what if he said, like what if he doesn't like this? Like, he doesn't like it. We like it. We love it. But he was just like a painting. The artist is always like, I could have did this better. Or I should have put this here. Maybe I should have spent a little extra time on.
Or maybe next time I'll try this instead of that. I get it.
I don't think it's saying that God made a mistake with any of us. I think like what he created and intended was perfection, but we all influence each other. So like we were perfect if we were isolated, but like as soon as we start like operating and caring about what other people think, or starting to like lean to like opinions or popular culture or whatever, like we don't stay perfect even if that's how we started. Like if Bear draws that and it's perfect to him and then you sign it, or
copyright,
put my name on that.
Or you look at it and you're like, no, I think this one finger just needs to go away. Like then it's no longer perfect, and like it's not what the creator of that painting intended.
Okay, I get that. Now I have a question. Do you believe that Jesus was perfect?
I do.
Based off of what you just said?
Yeah, I do.
Why?
Based off of what I just said, what? Finish your sentence.
Based off of what you just said, wouldn't that indicate that he wasn't perfect?
No, because I think he was the only one that, like, didn't or doesn't respond the same way to the rest of the world. Like,
so it's about the response that makes you perfect, or is it like what? And this, I'm not even trying to be funny. Like what separates Jesus from everybody else? Like what makes Jesus more perfect than everybody else?
Besides him dying on the cross.
Besides that,
come back. You know that was real distinct.
I don't think this is a conversation we plan to have, but let's have it.
But I mean,
so, I think
We talk about perfection. Let's go.
Yeah. I think, like, Jesus, like, we were made in God's image. Jesus was God, like, in human form. And so those are different things, like, distinctly. And I think that, like, the intention was for him to come and be exposed to all of the things that we're exposed to, like, that maybe we don't handle well or not the way, like, you know, whatever that perfect formula looks like. And to, like, so that he knows what we feel and, like, the attacks that we're up against and the things that we go through, but for him to kind of, like, handle it, like, the way God would handle it, because he is God, and then, like, he stands in the gap for us, like, because he was the only one that's perfect. Like, we can't do what he did. Like, even like, him being in the what is it, the desert for 40 days, and, like, the devil, like, tempting him. Like, we would probably respond to that temptation differently. Or maybe we handle the first one well, but not the second one. Like, we all have, like, our points where, like, I mean, we mess up. We're human. Like, we're going to mess up.
What if he messed up, but nobody wrote about it?
I was thinking
I
that.
literally just had a question. Like, cause it's just a bunch of people's stories. He could have slipped up, but it's like it's just a little minor. You know, it ain't changed too much. Let me just cover that up.
And I was gonna say, do we know exactly, like, during the trials that the whole missing period of his life, we have no clue what the trial,
30 years.
yeah, like the whole. So it's like he came back, and it was like whatever he went through during those periods probably shaped the decisions and how he was operating before then. But like, so was he not perfect during that period where he was just kind of trial and error or getting tempted or whatever?
I mean, what I believe is that, like, the scripture was inspired by God. Like, we know it was written by humans, and so, like, I understand the speculation, but I believe that, like, what the stuff that's in there is the stuff that we needed for, like, the purpose of the Bible is, like, to guide us. And so most of what we get about Jesus was his ministry. Like, I don't know what happened in the 30 years, but I think for me to accept the fact that, like, Jesus is God is perfect, then, like, those 30 years, I would say, like, he operated, like, perfectly. Like, and that's not to say, like, and we know weapons form. Like, I'm sure that he was exposed to stuff. I'm sure girls was trying to give it up to him. Like, you know, like, they was trying to get married, because like, he was probably old to not be married in that time. So, like, all of that, like, I'm sure that there was other temptation, like, that we don't know about. But like, I would believe, like, because that's, like, my core value is, like, I believe that Jesus was perfect. And so, like, I would say he lived that way, even though we don't get to read about every second of his life.
Now, I heard he might have been married, but we're going to move away from the Bible. I'm going to say...
Well, I had a question, though, but I was just... We're gonna move past it, but I was just going to say, again, if we're using Jesus as an example, right? It's like, all right, so he was God and he's human. So it's like, are we... So we're... He's a mix of the two. Yeah, he's a mix of the two. So... The reason why I usually have an issue with it is with the whole, like, everybody's flawed thing is just because it's to say, like, that innately human, there's something wrong with being human, right? Because that's all we really say is that, all right, God is perfect, and it's like God came in human form, and it's like the human form is the part that's what's wrong with him. I don't necessarily think I don't think there's nothing wrong with the human part of God. It's just he just happened to be in another form.
But why is being imperfect a bad thing?
I don't view it as being imperfect. That's what I'm saying. I think it's a part of the design. I think, like, the design is, like, same thing when we're talking about the picture, right? Or if you're talking about, like, jazz music, right? Technically, they're playing wrong notes, right? But the people looking, like, at us looking back at it, it's like, oh, it's so perfect. Because, like, how did they know how to do that? And it's like, no, they're doing everything that's wrong. But in hindsight, everything looks perfect because we're looking at it from a different lens. So it's like, and to me, in that aspect, nothing is really, it's not imperfect. It's just, it was designed to be a certain way. And it's like, it just leans, some things lean towards the other stuff. Some people are way more odd. Some people is kind of crazy. Some people, just kind of. I don't necessarily think it just depends on who's viewing it. At least in my opinion. I forget how I got here.
Don't agree, but we moving away from it. Like, let's move away from it. Cole, you was transitioning.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say I never got to say my opinion.
Go
ahead.
I
I'm sorry.
said my entire opinion. So
The jazz music part was that too?
I mean, it described my opinion of it. So I mean,
I would like to hear it. I would like to hear it
Yeah,
from you.
please. I would, because you got it. You might say it better.
no, it's fine. I'm good. You good.
Nah. We need you.
Yeah, we do. Your voice matters.
Sorry. We'll start in the next frame.
But I guess back to the original thing, people telling you that you're perfect. I think that's weird. I don't know. I feel like for somebody to say that you're perfect or I'm perfect, that's I don't know if their bar for themselves. How you saying your bar is just way higher, so you don't be understanding that comment. I don't know if it's is it a reflection of themselves that if you think I'm perfect, then your bar for yourself must be real low.
Nah, I hold myself to a different standard. I don't move how people be moving. Once I move, if I'm actually operating as my highest self, once I actually start moving like that, get different.
I think it's a thing where a lot of people hear people talking about what they're gonna do, and actually seeing him moving and doing those things, and actually being able to connect with them and stuff like that. But I know more so you was talking about your past and your childhood and all that stuff too.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Now being in the space where you're at now, a lot of people are gonna look at you and look like, oh, he perfect, he got it all together. Even growing up, because of the background that we grew up in, we was in the suburbs.
Nobody said it when I was little. Nobody said it, but observing. Sorry to cut you off. It's piggybacking off of what you said. Nobody said it, but this just cut Shakoya off.
It's cool. Y'all be great.
Nah, you just be piggy. You be throwing the oop, so I just gotta catch it,
Go
and then I'm gonna
ahead.
throw it back. It's like a game breaker, NBA Street. Do the oop. I'm look like I'm a.
Go
I'm
ahead
gonna
before you
throw it back.
forget your thought.
But, growing up, nobody said it, but just observing and being around how people change. People act different around. A lot of people act different around me.
Different how?
They just move different. It don't be it's I gotta.
It's why you being weird to me?
Yeah, I gotta, sit like this. Say dot my I's and cross my T's type of. Make sure everything is.
I was recently told that people act like that around me, or when they first meet me, that's how they feel like they should act.
Be perfect.
But
I don't be judging y'all.
Yeah, it wasn't because they thought I was perfect. They just thought I was judging them. And I'm like, I wasn't thinking about y'all like that. What?
I feel like it should be that way.
I mean,
people should have to come raise their standard when they get around you.
Oh no, yeah, I agree,
Yeah,
but don't feel like I'm
what
judging you. I'm happy that you feel like you needed to, straighten up a little bit, but just know that I wasn't judging you at all. I wasn't even thinking about you like that. I was trying to make sure y'all like me. Yeah. But I feel like that is I guess in a way, it's just perfection. Perfection and imperfection can come with different connotations depending on who you are. I think that is why it's so subjective, because depending on how you look at it, or how you look at it in other people, that's how you internalize it. So looking at you, they're seeing perfection in you, but they're looking at themselves like they're imperfect.
Yeah,
so they're that. So it might be a thing of they think that, oh, that's not fair, or it might be a thing of I want to get to that. So let me try to act a certain way around him because this is how I perceive he's acting. So I'm gonna get up to that level, and it's like you just sitting there, but they thinking like, nah, he out here, he quiet, he thinking, he doing this, and like it's not even like that. I'm thinking about what I'm about to cook for dinner. Like I'm not thinking about nothing right now. So like just recognizing that, and I think that is why it's so subjective because, like, because I'm not looking at you. Like, I'm looking at you, but I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at me. Like, it's in that moment, it's really about me because I'm looking at my flaws and my insecurities and different things like that. Like, it's nothing personal. But, I mean, it's personal, but it ain't personal.
But even with that, to that point, until recent years, I didn't look at it like that. Like, they're looking at themselves.
I just thought about that when I was talking just now.
But it's recent where I'm like, don't, like, whatever you say, I am, and it don't matter.
What people say about you often has nothing to do with you.
Exactly.
Usually
So and then that goes back to me saying I realized that I was self-sabotaging based off people holding me to this certain expectation. Now it's like I'm moving how I'm moving regardless because I'm going somewhere. So whatever you talking about, thank you. But I gotta go.
It's funny. I was thinking when I was listening to y'all talk. It's really two things that I want to say. One of them was I think the idea of perfection is that I think people see other people and they call people perfect because they are assuming that they always make the right choice, and it's like the right choice is always subjective, right? It's never, and the right choice you really can only make it in hindsight because it's like, all right, this was the perfect choice for the perfect circumstance. So people are looking at you and they're like, he perfect. It's like, I would have made this turn, I would have made this decision, not realizing that like you're making, like, even if it's a mistake, it's like the mistake is helping you learn to get to a better place anyway. So it's like it's not really
it still might be the right turn for you.
Yeah, it's not even really a wrong. It's not really a right and a wrong choice. It's really just a matter of like what you're feeling and what you're choosing to do, as long as you're choosing. But the other thing that I was gonna say, it was more a question. Do you guys think you can improve something until it's perfect?
Nah. Go ahead. You first. Please.
No, you can go ahead. I was just gonna say, not necessarily. So, like, I have two thoughts. So, my natural thinking as far as, like, who I am is aligned with what you were saying. So, like, that's something that has, like, helped me in moving forward with things and accepting my mistakes and things like that. But if you think about it, a lot of times we're in a constant search of perfection, right? Because we're looking at certain things as mistakes or as flaws rather than just looking at them as like, this thing is just this thing, right? We're labeling it. We're constantly labeling things. So in that and in constantly growing and changing your opinion, you're constantly in search of trying to perfect whatever something is. I'm not sure that you can get to the point of perfection. I think you can get close to it, but even in hindsight, if you feel like in that moment this was perfect, in hindsight you're gonna look at that and be like, I could have did so much better. Like, oh yeah, that was trash. Or it was like, I did the bare minimum there. And I know a lot of times with music we do that. So like, it'd be songs that I thought this was fire. This was fire when I released it, and then I look back and I was like, you know what? That harmony wasn't what I thought it was. Like, I could have did this so much better now than I did it then. And it's like, but in that moment, it felt perfect. It felt like, or maybe it didn't feel perfect, but we could say, for the sake of the example, in that moment, it felt perfect. So,
I think perfection is always like moving goalposts. I think like one of the, I guess, best leaders that I've had has taught me that like we have to focus on progress and not perfection, because like trying to strive for perfection will keep you stuck. Like that's why we don't release stuff and we have all of this content that we've created that's just sitting in this iPad.
She's talking to myself now.
Right, self-talk.
But yeah, so it's just like we can't focus on perfection. I think it's that, like you were saying, like as long as you make a choice, it's like choosing and like keeping the momentum going. Like you have no choice but to grow as long as you keep choosing.
Yeah.
What about you?
Ask the question again.
Do you think you can improve upon something until it's perfect?
Word. I don't think so. Like they said, perfection is the goal, and I'm headed to the pylon.
That Lil Wayne.
Of course.
Crown fit me good. I ain't even got to try on. Pistol mean business. All right, but perfection. Yeah, I don't think you ever improve on something until it's perfect. Just because, like you were saying, like Shakoya was saying, calling you your real name threw me off.
I know.
All right.
I could tell.
All right. Perfection.
It's like you keep striving for it.
Oh, when you get to a point where you think it's perfect, it's always room for improvement. That's what I'm gonna say. I don't think you ever do something to the point where it's perfect, because there's always room for improvement, and times is always changing, and nobody does anything exactly the same. So we may get to the same point, do the exact same thing. You did it differently, and I like how you did that. So I'm like, I could have did that. Mine is good, but if I would have just took what they did on top of what I did, then it would have been perfect.
Right.
But like, it's always something new that you could do. You could always figure something else out. It's always more that could be done.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm gonna say.
I agree. I mean, I agree. The point I was.
Hold on, what's your opinion first?
Well, that's what I was getting ready to share.
Oh, okay.
Nah,
You be skipping over his opinion.
No, because I'm listening, and so there's a part of me that agrees with you, and a part of me that feels like I want to play devil's advocate, only because I think the part of it that is actually perfect is the fact that like there's errors in it, that there's flaws in it, right? So like,
but the definition of perfect.
And this is what I'm saying. That's why we saying it's subjective, right? Because in a lot of artists, you'll hear them and they'll be making amazing music, and then at some point, right, they'll get to a point where they can't make the thing that they used to make anymore, right? You just don't know when you're gonna hit that point, right? So at that moment, you're like, all right, dang, this was the height of whatever it is, and now you're not as good, but technically speaking, it's perfect because it has the errors in it, right? So you're making this paint, and you're like, this is off, right? But the errors are actually what makes it as perfect as it's supposed to be, because it's not supposed to have no flaws. Like, the flaws are what give it character. So like, that's why I'm listening to you guys talking about like, all right, we're striving to it. We're like, you never actually reach. I don't think you ever actually reach the. That's why I said I kind of agree. Like, you never actually reach the thing where it's like there's no mistakes, but the mistakes are what. That's you. That's what adds to the perfection, because it's like that's like, you. You're adding you into it.
I feel like that's what makes it subjective, because it may be perfect to everybody else, but to you, personally, I didn't do this to a point of perfection because I know I can do better. I know it's room for improvement. I didn't like the errors. Everybody else liked the errors, but if it's not perfect to me, then it's not perfect.
So you think there's never been a time when you're doing something, and I mean, you guys can chime in, but you think there's never been a time where you're doing something where you hit the where you're like, all right, dang, in this very moment, there's nothing more I could have added to this. Because to me, that's perfect. Because it's like, if you couldn't have added or I wouldn't change nothing about it. That's perfect. Even if in hindsight you look back, it's like, I could have did that better. But in the moment.
But that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Though. Like, I feel like in that moment you could say it was perfect, or you feel like all right, I put my all into it. This is done. It's complete. But when you look back, you be like, I could have did this better. So I think that's why we were saying, like, it is a moving goalpost. Like, not, but in that moment, I feel like you can say that it was, but you're still going to find ways later that you could have improved on it.
Okay. I feel it.
Yeah. So I was going to say that, like, what you were describing, like, that's why I feel like people aren't perfect. Because, like, our mistakes like give us texture. Like our experiences are all different for a reason. Like we couldn't have this conversation and have different perspectives if we didn't all like go through different things. Like not to say that our mistakes are like negative. They're like, I don't know, you used to say this like things I must experience or something like that. I don't know. Out time, right? Like that was
Shout out Nano.
things I must experience. But I feel like that's necessary. But like that gives us our scars and our bumps and our bruises and like reasons to have conversations and tell stories. Like
and I think we're saying the exact same thing. I just think you're saying it is that's the reason why we're not perfect. I'm saying that's the exact reason why we are perfect. I'm saying like the fact that we go through different stuff and it's like, all right, all of the little details, whether it's like, all right, I laugh, like I'm laughing to not be upset about something, right? All of this stuff is like it makes you uniquely you, and it's like there's not another replica of you. So it's like, of course you're perfect. You're a one of one, like so it's like if you don't feel like that, that's up to you. That's a you problem, but. As for me and my household, wait.
I think that is very subjective. I definitely, I agree.
I have a question. I
Go for it.
don't know if we answered already, but how do you define perfection?
Okay, so right, I feel like before y'all answer, I feel like that's very subjective just because like some people define it without like not having any flaws. Like even how we just described it in multiple different ways. So like I'm gonna read the actual definition before y'all say y'all definitions, your personal definitions.
I don't have an answer.
Yeah,
at the moment.
I just be knowing when stuff ain't right. That's not it. That was close. No cigar.
Well, I guess then say if you agree with this or if you have any other thoughts of this. All right, so perfection. The condition, state, or quality of being free or as free as possible from all flaws or defects. A person or thing perceived as the embodiment of perfection. The action or process of improving something until it is faultless or as faultless as possible.
One more time, tell me you gonna be back.
Yo, was listening.
I was.
First time I listened for the vibes.
Alright. Perfection. The condition, state, or quality of being free or as free as possible from all flaws or defects. A person or thing perceived as the embodiment of perfection. The action or process of improving something until it is faultless or as faultless as possible.
I like the second one. It's perceiving. Perfection is subjective. It's based off perspective. Take you back to the pizza diagram. Nobody knows what's the top of the pizza is. Once you got a slice, it's your slice. However you eat it, that's how you eat it. Start at the top. Is the crust the top or is the point the top? It's perspective.
That's the first time we've explained the pizza diagram on here. There will be a picture of the pizza diagram somewhere in this video. But yeah, I feel like I don't know, like the definition of perfection isn't even a definite definition. Because it's saying as free as possible or as faultless as possible. So it just even lends to the idea that although it is perfect does not mean that it is flawless. Like it may still have some character. The character does not necessarily take away from the level of perfection. It's all how it's perceived.
And it mentioned improving until you get to the point of it.
Yeah, until improving something until it is faultless or as faultless as possible. So yeah, it's not definite that you're gonna get to I guess definite perfection, because what is perfection really? Oxford Dictionary doesn't even know.
So, so do y'all feel like y'all have perfected anything in your life?
I was going to ask that.
I do not feel like I perfected anything. In my opinion, when you reach perfection, when you reach perfection, it's, in my opinion, when you reach perfection, you don't, it's no room to learn anything. And if we always learning, always improving, always evolving, we constantly learning. So I don't feel like it's any way we can actually be perfect. You can be extremely good at something, do something extremely well, but to say it's perfect, I look at that as you know everything that can be known or learned or done with whatever subject. And if that's the case, then there's no room for growth or improvement. You know me, Mr. Growth.
I don't know. I don't think I've perfected anything. I don't even know that I've come close to perfection with anything, because I feel like I'm still learning so much. I feel like in 50 years we should revisit this question.
I feel like everybody that's great feels this way. They
Yeah.
don't feel like they perfected what everybody thinks they're perfect at, like, or they do so amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're still working at improving it any way that they can. Do y'all feel like y'all perfected anything?
Oh no. I think I'm a work in progress, and I think that's fine. I think I'm still I think I'm improving on, which is, I don't even want to say that. I think I'm just improving on the idea of me. Like, I think as I'm going,
thinking that.
like, whatever this idea of me is, whatever God intended. Not saying that I'm making it better, but just kind of I'm learning, right? I'm improving. Yeah.
Remembering
That
who
too.
you are. Like, we was made a certain way up until this point, or recent years, at least for myself, I've forgotten. It's like we dropped here, we forget everything. Now we gotta live our life to remember who we are.
Like, so. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you fine. I was gonna say I don't even know if, like, for me it's not remembering. It's that, like, I didn't know. Like, I don't know if I have ever known, and, like, now I'm getting really clear on, like, who I am and what I believe. And, like, I mean, I think that's very liberating. But I also, like, for me, it doesn't feel like remembering. It feels like the first time. Like, I'm being introduced to me.
That's fire.
What life path are you?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Talk about it off camera.
Got
nothing.
7.
7, 8,
9.
9. I'm an 8.
But
All right.
yeah.
We'll figure yours out soon.
I was gonna say, for me, it does feel like a remembering, but it also feels like I'm building. I get a chance to actually build who I am, which is like, this is the first time, again, that first time I'm here at this specific time with these specific people, like, so it's super cool to me to be able to be like, all right, well, even if I was here before, it's like, this is a newer version of me because it's a new context, and it's like, I just like the idea that I'm building myself however I want to be, and when I look back at the end of my life, I'll probably be like, oh, that was some fire design, and you put that together well. Look how you styled that. That's fire, you know. So that's how I look at it. But I definitely think we remember a lot of the stuff as well.
Yeah. Oh, me?
Yeah.
What's the question?
Do you ever think you've done?
I said I
did?
answered.
You did.
I don't think I perfected anything yet. I answered before y'all.
That is where we started.
Yeah,
it is.
how we get to remember it.
Because you.
But do you feel like you're remembering, or that you're, like, discovering?
I think it's a mix. I feel like some things I am remembering. I think a lot of things I'm remembering. And some of it may be from me, whether it be, like, let's say a past life, or, like, when I was just a spirit.
When I was a young warthog.
When he was a young warthog. Just like you hanging like
Come
that.
on.
Life is a musical.
It's not.
So, yes, I think some things are like new, and I'm building or I'm designing my life. I know that's something that I literally started saying once I started going on like my self-love journey. I like the life that I'm designing for myself. But some things I feel like I'm remembering. Like, it's just things that either was just embedded in me that I forgot, or maybe it is something that was inherently passed down to me that I just had to tap into. So remembering in that aspect. So yeah, I think it's a mix. I really think it's a mix. But I'm having fun. Having fun while I'm doing it. That's all I know.
I don't know. I just feel like I don't feel like I ever really got to be me without discipline. So like everything that like I don't know. I feel like who I am could have been handled differently when I was younger. Because I think now like those gifts I'm like recognizing as gifts, and like I just don't think people really knew how to like nurture what's in me. So like now I'm having to like self do that, and like I don't know, I be listening to stuff and they're like you talking to like the little girl inside you, but like I think that's a real thing. Like I'll be having to like go back and be like, listen, like it's okay that you're like this, because I think I don't know, like I felt like I learned that everything about me was bad, so then I tried to like mirror the things that I thought people would be more like acceptable to people, or the way like I was supposed to respond or look or behave in certain situations.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, this actually transitions us into like image, like that being in terms of perfection, because the way that we grew up, a lot of the stuff was on image and stuff like that. So like us seeing things and emulating things, or like a lot of stuff. I was a goody two shoes because you was getting beatings, and I was like, I don't want that for my life. So
by example,
yeah, so it's like the way that you were trying to mirror things that were more acceptable, I was searching for things that would be more acceptable as well. And I don't know that I really started, I guess, really being comfortable with fully just being myself until I moved. Like, because now I'm able to discover things about myself that is like, or not even discover. That's where some of the remembering is coming from too. Because it's like, oh no, I did this.
I did used to do this.
Right, like the fact that I had to go to therapy to remember that I like listening to music, like that just relaxes me. Listen.
It's the little things in life.
It really is.
You be like, wow.
Y'all do music. We do, but like literally the way that I used to set aside time to just really listen and just dive into, like, ignore everything else around me and just lay down and get lost in my music. I hadn't done that since I was in high school. And I didn't realize that was the way I was getting my rest. That's the way I was refueling, or I felt at peace at that time.
I think that's a thing though, because me and Damani was talking about reading fiction, and I was like, I did used to read Harry Potter.
But that's the thing. Like I think you do forget some of the stuff, but it's like, again, you need all of the processes of like going through and like, all right, somebody telling you, because you're not alone in people telling you like, all right, you feeling like stuff is bad. They tell you, the first thing they tell you, hey, we born in sin. You starting off bad. And then it's like you don't even start off good. The first thing we start, you born in sin. All right, well, and then it's
so
like,
how do I do the opposite of that?
Of everything that I'm normally doing. So and then I think we learn like, all right, well, cool. This is good. This is good for me. I like doing this. This is bad in this scenario, but it's not. It's good for me, or whatever it is.
Or it's good in this scenario. So how do I navigate that?
Yeah, this would be another thing. Ooh,
I don't know what.
Ignore that, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so many people that do the same things that we all do, but it be feeling like wherever you grow up at, you're the only person that's doing this thing or want to do this seriously or even enjoy doing it. Like, I don't know anybody else that was singing except Cub.
I ain't had no singing friends except for like when I went to church, but even then they wasn't trying to be singers. They we just always happened to be singing together.
Yeah,
I ain't never met nobody that could draw or paint.
I had rapping.
Well,
rapping
besides
friends.
You definitely did have rapping
But
friends.
it's a completely like it's a lot that goes into that, and then it's a big age gap.
Yeah, I would say it's time, it's perspective,
and we
people.
We in two different environments, doing two different things.
And then also, we just trying to figure out life at the same time. Like, I don't know why I just stuttered so much, but y'all get the point.
And it's like, we not around the people. Like, the people that we around, they not doing the stuff that we actually want to do. So it's like, I don't know, maybe it's a fitting in type of thing, being accepted.
Yeah. And I was going to say, on top of that, stuff is changing so fast. So, like, stuff that was, like, taboo, like, years before, it's like, now, oh, yeah, this is a thing that people do now. Like, we have names for stuff that before it was, like, black people, my nerves is bad. It's like, you got anxiety. We have a word for it now. Like, this is, you know, so it's like stuff is changing. Stuff is changing just, like, so rapidly. Cause, like, and I was thinking about when you talking about having people around, like, for... Like my brother was rapping, right? But how my dad was viewing it was like, nah, the people who were rapping at that time period, it's like they gangsters, they killers, so it's like now, 15 years later, anybody rapping. Like, you got little Jimmy, 15 years old, rapping, doing the fidget spin. Like, it don't even like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, so something that was bad, it's like now it's like, all right, well, now it's not as bad, and it's like, well, I like doing this. And people around me are doing this now, so they're just kind of tailoring stuff for who you are.
And the world's smaller now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also just really figuring out, recognizing that just because certain things, especially in like the particular environment that we grew up in, like certain things, okay, this wasn't good or welcomed. It wasn't welcome. We're not going to say good or bad. This wasn't welcomed in this aspect of whatever community I was in or whatever society I was in. But in this context, like, let's say, all right, sleeping in church, right? It's not good to sleep in church, but it's good to take naps outside of church.
I feel like that was a reach, so I would help you give you a different example.
My other example was way worse.
Sleeping in church.
I think the example that I go back to for myself is that, like, I used to get in trouble for asking, not just asking questions, but also just having an opinion about everything, because I have an opinion about everything.
That's why people don't have to judge it.
But I had an opinion at everything at 5. You know, and so, like, as an adult talking to a 5-year-old and, like, I want to know why you asking me to do that, sorry. But, like, now I get paid to ask questions. I get paid to challenge people in meetings. Like, I got thanked by my manager for, like, pushing back and saying, like, y'all sound crazy. We shouldn't be doing that. But, like, that's what I was getting beatings for. So, like, in a different context.
Y'all sound crazy.
Yeah, just time is everything. Like, space and time and age is like you have to kind of like reshape. Like, I just wish somebody would have like made it a game or something. Like just figured out a way to like that little girl to be like, okay, like your questions are valuable. Like, it's just you shouldn't ask them in front of everybody. Or like, I don't know. I think also we just have a different like level of emotional awareness than like our parents did, because I think some of it would have been like, okay, you embarrassed mommy, like you know. But like our parents don't even like, they would have never said that, right? But I think as a child I would have understood it and be like, okay, let me wait.
I think some of it is they don't know, but they don't want to say that they don't know. And like I remember when we were in college. Like, so growing up, I wasn't super religious when I was growing up. So me and my friends, we would always be asking questions. Like, we'd just be throwing stuff out there. I get to college, right? And they ask us, like, if you could ask God any question, what would you ask him? I said, I don't know, maybe why? The whole room looked at me, you're not supposed to ask God. oh, hold up. I didn't know there was rules. I'm mad confused, right? And it's just and I'm like, so wait, hear me out. Why am I not supposed to ask God why? You just not supposed to do it. And I was like, but like, who else am I supposed to? Who else am I supposed to ask? And it was like, it wasn't a reason. So that's why I'm like, in the same thing, right? Understanding like a lot of people don't explain the reasons why you're not like, you don't ask questions here. It's just like, all right, you're not supposed to do this. And then you get older, it's like, well, there's nothing wrong with it. It was just the setting, or it was the fact that you making me look, or maybe I don't know. I have no idea, and I don't want to tell a 5-year-old I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm supposed to have the answer.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, because I hate that we're taught that we can't ask why, because I think, especially in the context that you're talking about, like God is not afraid of our why, right? Like He can handle our questions, but I think a lot of times, like our parents or whoever the like adult or authority figure was, like they don't know, and they don't want to say they don't know. I think like that's especially true for like church, and like I think like now we have a different level of access to people that are teaching differently, not just like in religious spaces, but like in like we just have access to information that they didn't really have. So I think we're probably more comfortable with questions than they were, but like we probably was making them feel dumb, so they just like, nah, shut up, go sit in the corner. Like, you want punishment.
But I'd be okay with people not having the answer, because then it's like, I
don't know.
Yeah, like, hey, listen, I don't got the answers, but I guess it's going back to
I
the
think
perfection.
That's a generational thing.
But it's like the perfection thing. It's like you come here because you're supposed to have the. But I'm coming to you to get the answers. You ain't got the answer. Where I'm gonna get them from?
But even with that, all the authority figures work. When you go to work, if you don't have the answer, you're gonna go figure out the answer. So it should be the same.
But it's a thing where you're my child. I don't have to answer to you. That's the mindset. Like, I'm the adult, okay? I don't have. I should be asking you the questions. Where are you going? Like, why you asking me questions? I don't know. What do you think?
You don't have to explain yourself to me. I don't have to explain myself to you.
Go to your room. Get my belt. Like, at that point, so I think that's more so what it is, because like if they're answering questions at work, or they're figuring out answers, or maybe they didn't figure out the answer at work, right? So they just got embarrassed at work, came home, they child asking a question. We in Bible study. Child come out asking a question. I don't got
What's
the
a
answer.
booty hole? Like, what? You're embarrassing mommy.
So that is a great question. Not for right now.
Right, let's take that one home.
But at that point, it's like now everybody looking at me like, your child is, that's how you raised your child? So, all right.
I gotta show these adults that I'm parenting.
Right, get
so
out my
you
face.
get in the corner.
Mm-hmm. Time out.
We have really good parents. Really good parents.
We do.
I feel like we need a disclaimer.
Right, we do have really good parents. And we grew up in a different time also. But yeah, so I think that's another thing where it's like a lot, because a lot of times you begin like the residual of whatever just happened at work too.
Absolutely.
So,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think like too, none of us are parents.
Right.
So
don't take parenting advice from us.
Not
We are
parents.
not parents.
Not parents.
Man, I be sunning these.
But like, I don't know what that like pressure is like to be like the primary breadwinner, or like to have to pay bills that you can't pay, because I just like thankfully haven't like had that experience. So like to do that, and then also have this little person that you are responsible for clothing and feeding and like molding,
instilling
like,
a mind.
and I think for them, they probably weren't allowed to like we live in a very privileged
Probably.
like
they wasn't
space
asking
and
no
time,
questions.
right? Like they couldn't ask no questions. They probably didn't even breathe their questions out loud.
Right. Like,
So like,
is that a question mark out here?
I hear.
I think it was just different, and I think they all did the best they could.
Yeah, and I appreciate them for
I'm grateful.
you have to be grateful, but the one thing I learned from like just being able to ask questions is that most people have the exact same question.
yeah.
I'll be looking around, I'll be like, asking, I'll see people smiling, I'm like, oh, he was thinking that too. You just didn't want to say it.
It
And I
made
was
me
like,
mad though, because everybody be so scary.
Like the other day when I was on the phone, and I was like, this might be a stupid question, but never mind.
You're like,
As a matter of fact, yeah, this might be a stupid question, but I knew like, it wasn't a stupid question, especially based off the answer. I thought it was something completely different. He was boom, boom, boom. Nah, this, and this. We're gonna keep it for a couple years. Oh wow, very insightful.
Yeah, it's like for us not to assume that we know. Like, cause I mean, we're constantly learning and growing. As we talked about life, so like, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yep, and going back to the parent again, no parenting advice. But for me, like, when I was younger, I would have even been okay with like, hey, I don't know, I'm gonna figure it out for you. Like, oh word, I would have been excited. Like, all right, whenever you get the answer, I'm cool with it. People don't even be. They be like,
but they probably ain't had nobody to ask their questions.
Or even just I don't know. Like,
because
most times when you 5 and they just be like, I don't know. Okay. And then you just go back to what you was doing. Like,
hey, what's the booty hole?
Like,
I don't know.
Okay.
No, because they gonna go back to their little friends. My mom said she don't know. So, can you ask your mom? And then it's a whole thing.
But some kids ain't like that. Some kids are just like, I'm going to go back and play. Or it's like, my mom said she don't know. Okay. You want to play with the toy? Like, that's it.
Distract them.
Like, I don't know. I feel like it would have been easier, but it's, if I'm looking at my parent as this perfect human, I don't want you to think I'm not perfect.
But it's a lot of pressure and expectations.
Right. It's a lot of pressure, though.
So just tell me you don't know, so I don't think you perfect.
But they don't, I don't know, like, has there ever been a generation of parents, probably more so now, but, like, before us that leaned into the imperfection or, like...
Probably now. Or...
No, I don't think Black Americans get that luxury.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
I agree.
Because, like, we can only speak from, like, our cultural experience.
That's true, because I said that, like, I know all the parents in the world.
And, like, Asian parents might be like, kid, I don't know. Let's go get the book. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't
know. White parents, I don't know. Someone out there. One of you might tell your kids. I don't know.
But
I think more so now, just because the knowledge, the answer is readily available. You don't know something? I go to TikTok. Some people might choose Google, ask Jeeves.
I think some.
I tried to look for Ask Jeeves. It's not even a thing no more.
Oh,
I Googled Ask Jeeves, and nobody knew what it was.
I feel like some of it is the age gap between parents. And, like, this might just be what I've observed and not all parents. But I think, like, when you have your kids as teenagers, you are closer to them in age. So you give them more information because you accept... But you accept that you're imperfect or, like, that you don't know everything. And I think people that maybe have kids, like, later in life feel like they're supposed to know everything. It's like us looking around and being like, oh, we're the adults. But, like, I don't think... And I think that's just, like, what I saw in, like, my relationships and my friends and seeing how their parents parented them versus ours. But I feel like they had a lot more information than I had.
That's true. I also think it's a thing where in your 20s you already like, or even when you're like 20s and older, you already feel like you're supposed to have it all together already.
Yeah.
So like,
where this idea came from,
I have no idea. But you feel like you're supposed to have it all together. So then you have this child and you're like, I'm still supposed to have it all together. So, like, I'm supposed to know this, but I don't. But you're not supposed to know that I don't know this. So, I'm going to just tell you to go to bed because I actually don't know what we eat tomorrow.
Yeah. And I think as a kid, you don't...
Wow, that took a turn. Sheesh.
Sorry, y'all.
Like, what?
My example's been kind of off today, but y'all get the point.
But I think also...
Everything okay at home?
It's alright, you're not supposed to be perfect.
I'm not supposed to be perfect.
No expectations here.
I was created perfect, but I'm still trying to progress back to that point.
See, but I like that. Like, that we were created perfect. Something happened. And we're trying to get back to that point.
Oh man! Well, I was gonna say, I think we all, as kids also, you're not looking at your parents like they didn't, like, we look at our parents like they're already at the end game of life. Like, they're already, like, every single thing that they've done, they're not learning right now. I'm not thinking that my mom
100%.
is going to the job, learning something at her job. Like, so it's not until you get older and you're like, oh, snap, they're still learning to this day. Like, to this day.
I was thinking that.
But I think some of that is their fault. Because I think they want to look perfect. Like, I think if parents talk to kids more, like, I mean, you still have to have some level of separation. You shouldn't be putting all your stuff on your kids, but, like, telling them you learned something, or, like, letting them know, like, this thing I'm doing is hard. I'm stressed. You know, like.
I always wanted to. In my mind, as a parent, I always see my kids learning what I'm learning. So whatever I'm learning, like, we learning together. If that makes sense. So if I'm learning how to trade,
that's very
we
optimistic.
learning how to trade.
I don't
very
know.
optimistic.
We gonna make it fun.
But
But
make
make
sure
sure they're interested in it too. Like, 'cause they might not be interested.
Because for me, when my dad told me, he was like, anything that he tried to make me do, I would do the opposite. Like, I just would not like. He said he didn't want to play reggae music around me because he didn't want me to hate it. And it's not even a joke. And I was like, I love reggae music. I'm like, why would you? He was like, anything he would give me to try and make me do, I would instantly not want to play with it.
I don't look at it as I'm not making them do it. If they don't want to do it, but they gonna be around while I'm doing it. Do that make sense? Like, kids see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Even if they not doing it, they gonna see it.
But that doesn't mean they're gonna learn it just because you learn it.
They gonna know. They gonna know. So then it's like, when they come back around and they hearing stuff, it's not gonna be foreign. So I feel like it'll be a lot easier to learn. Don't take parenting advice, but this is what I'm doing.
I feel like, I mean, even if you're looking at your example for your dad, right? Do you know everything that your dad knows about whatever he's been doing with his jobs? No, not at all. You learn it every single.
I don't do what he do.
Exactly my point. So that's like, you could have been in the room. You not paying attention to nothing he doing until it's time for you to actually go over it. We tried to put up that shelf.
I seen him. I put up the shelf just like he would put up the shelf. From our, you not reading no directions. It's a wall.
He does not.
Got it in.
I don't read directions either. But
Got the shelf
Did you
up.
look for the studs? All right, we'll talk about it later.
Cole did that, didn't you?
Okay.
And then I had measured everything out. And
your mom was like, knock. Make sure y'all knock.
No, I was like, I know I knocked in the right spot, but I had the wrong thing. Anyways. But, yeah, you were talking.
I'm done.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah. Well, yeah, nobody's perfect, or everybody's perfect. However you want to look at it.
Yeah, I mean.
Life is like a slice of pizza.
Not every slice was made the same.
It just depends on how you cut it.
And you'll see a diagram somewhere in the video.
Ding.
Yep.
I don't know why I did a ding. It's not a bell. But.
Anyways, but do y'all have any final thoughts on
perfection?
Do y'all have any final thoughts on perfection? What it means to you? What you think of it? How does it make you feel?
This was great dialogue about perfection. Got different views. We learned that Oxford Dictionary don't even know what perfection is. So
Don't nobody know.
I'm glad y'all did that in unison.
We be around each other too much. But yeah, moral of the story is perfection is whatever you perceive it to be. Perfection could mean that it's without flaws. It could mean that it has flaws in it that you just like. You tell us what you think. Comment below. What you gonna say?
Thanks for having me, guys.
thanks for coming.
This is Kaylah Raye. Don't forget to follow her on all social media platforms. Instagram. She don't be on her Twitter. Don't follow her on Twitter. But you actually can follow her on Twitter. Because she gonna get on Twitter one of these days.
Just be talking it up.
Just wait for her. You know, follow her and wait.
Excuse me. Follow my YouTube channel.
Ah.
At Kaylah Raye. Everything else, I really can't.
Follow her on YouTube.
But YouTube though.
She be vlogging and stuff like that. She has really good content, especially If you're in the tech world, but also if you're into lifestyle stuff, she be cleaning and stuff too. It be looking, it
My
be
whole
nice.
series is
Yeah, she about to have a new series coming soon. But thank y'all.
Lifestyle, she be cleaning it.
Thank y'all for joining us for another episode of the Grae Area Podcast. If you haven't already, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and tell a friend, and tell a friend, and tell a friend. And we'll catch y'all next time. Bye!
Adios!
Bye.
Yeah.